In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to wrap your stems around your hoop so you get this kind of 3D look. You'll want to be at the point where you're ready to back your hoop. So that means that you've got everything stitched and ready to go. So the first thing you're going to want to do is take your scissors and trim around the edges of the fabric. So you're just going to cut off all the extra corners, extra fabric that we're not going to need. And I just go around in a circle around the hoop, getting rid of any extra material. When you're done trimming around the edges, the next thing we're going to do is take our scissors and we're going to cut around the hoop. So I'm cutting right to the edge of my fabric, and I'm cutting about 1.5 inch pieces all the way around my hoop. This is going to be useful so that when we are pulling all our fabric together in the back, there won't be any extra puckers or bunches. So this will make it so that the back will lay flat when we back our hoop with felt. So once you've gone around the entire circle, you're ready to start pulling together all of these little pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and thread my needle. I like to use 6 strands of embroidery floss. It really doesn't matter though, you can use as many as you want. So with my needle threaded, I'm going to start by pulling 2 pieces of fabric together, inserting the needle up from underneath and pulling all the way through. And my goal is to attach all these pieces of fabric together. So I'm going around the hoop, going over, under, and I'm pulling together these pieces of fabric so that they become attached when I stitch into them. So I'm overlapping the pieces, insert the needle, and then now I'm going to be going from the underneath and doing the same thing. I'm going to be going around the entire hoop until all these pieces are pulled together and they're attached. The reason I'm doing this, like I said before, is when I attach the pieces this way, there's less bunching in the back because the pieces are able to lay flat. And it doesn't pucker as much. So it makes it easier to attach the felt and allows the felt to lay flatter. Once I get back to the beginning, I like to kind of overlap a little bit where I've already gone, just to solidify and make the stitches stronger. Then I'm just going to tie a knot off on the back. So I just go underneath one of the stitches and then I take the needle through that loop and pull it tight. I do that twice. So now all my pieces are pulled back. I can go ahead and trim this off and I'm ready for the next step. Now I'm ready to start working on the stems and making them look like they wrap around the side of the hoop. And it kind of gives it this 3D effect. So I'm going to start by taking some thread. My pattern I'm using is using 4 strands of thread for the stems. So I'm going to use 2 strands, pull my needle down to the middle of the thread, and then I'm going to knot the strands on the end, making 4 strands all together. This makes it so that the needle doesn't come unthreaded. It's my favorite way to thread the needle. I think it's the easiest to work with. So now that I've got my needle threaded, I'm ready to start stitching the stems around the sides of the hoop. I'm going to start by inserting my needle underneath the fabric and pulling it all the way through. Then I'm going to figure out which direction I want my stems to go. If I pull it this way, the stem will look crooked. So I want to pull it so that it's going the same direction that I stitched my stem in. And then once I kind of hold that down with my finger, I can insert the needle right where I want the stem to lead towards. So I want it to go in this direction. I've pinned it down. Now as I'm pulling this through, I'm tacking down that stem and see how it's kind of following the same direction the stem was going on the fabric, now being wrapped around the hoop. To start the next stem, I'm going to insert the needle underneath my edge. It's kind of hard, you have to work underneath the fabric. So you kind of want to know where you're going with the needle, and you're looking underneath your hoop to insert the needle where that next stem is. So once you're able to bring the needle up from behind, you've got that needle kind of tucked under there, and then you can pull it out, and then you're gonna again direct the stem to go the direction you want it to go. So I've got this stem kind of going a little bit diagonally, so I want to make sure that when I pull my stem down and wrap it around the hoop, I hold it into place so that I can see right where I want to stitch it. Then I just insert the needle into the extra fabric that I've got around the sides and pull it through. So then I'm done with that stem and I've got it going the direction I wanted it to go. So now I'm ready to start looking for my next stem. This one is going diagonally a lot, so when I bring my needle up from underneath, remember it's going behind that fabric, it's going to go down diagonal a lot. I don't want to pull it this way, I want to pull it so it's following the same direction as the stems. So when I tack it down, I got to make sure that it's in the right spot. So I'm just pulling it through that extra fabric on the back, and then I'm done with that stem and I'm ready to go to the next one. So now with this next stem, I can see that it's gonna overlap the stem I just did because of the way the direction it's heading. So it's gonna kind of cross over that other stem, and I think that adds a cool little detail on the hoop that they cross over. So again, I'm holding that down and I'm gonna stitch through the fabric and tack that stem into place, going the direction I want it to go. Again, I'm just going through that one piece of fabric on the other side where we had pulled it back. So I'm just going to keep following these same steps. I'm going to keep extending the stems to around the hoop, and I'm just going to make sure that I'm holding it in place where I want the stem to go so it's going the correct direction, and then I'm going to tack it down on the other side. So now I'm on my last stem for this flower. So again, I'm just inserting the needle up from underneath, finding the direction it needs to go, and then wrapping it around the hoop and tacking it into place with my finger, holding it down. And then I'm going to tack it on the other side by going through that flap of fabric and pulling it all the way through. Okay, so now I've gone around my entire hoop. I just need to tie it off on the back. So to do this, I'm just going to bring the needle back up, and then I'm just going to go underneath that last stitch that I made. And then pull my needle through the loop and pull tight, and do that twice. So again, go under the stitch, back through the loop, and pull tight. And I've got that tied off so I can cut off that extra thread. And now I'm done. I've got my stems. They're going around the hoop, kind of adding that extra 3D texture that I love. Now I can just back my hoop with felt like I usually do. I've got another tutorial for that. If you're looking to back your hoop with a piece of felt, you can look for that tutorial.